Today, I'm going to teach you everything there is to know about fan farming, what are the best Umas, what are the best support cards, the 4 fundamentals you need to understand, how to get crazy amount of fans with just average decks, and much more. As usual, I haven't came with my hands empty, and I'm also going to give you sheets to take with you today that will help remind you of everything you've learned from this video. So let's get started. Now, the first question we need to be asking ourselves is, why do we want to farm fans? Well, fans are earned from races during your Uma's career and are particularly important to farm heavily just a few times each month because it will help your club reach its monthly quota that will guarantee you and your friends more Carats, which translates to more pulls. And in addition to that, this will also prove that you're contributing to the club, although, and hear this, you are doing much less careers than everyone else. And that's the beauty of today's video. I'm going to teach you everything there is to know about maximizing your output and what's been holding you back. Now, to start this off, there are 4 fundamental things you need to understand about fan farming before we can execute the strategy. And don't blame yourself for not knowing this, as the second one in particular isn't common knowledge and not obvious or explained within the game. Number 1 is the simplest, which is the difference between objective races and optional races. Objective races are the mandatory races unique to each Uma and based on her real-life career. The timing and number is unique for each Uma and will affect the pacing of the career, as some objective races will land on turns with optional races that are very relevant for fan farming and will prevent you from doing them as they are part of the career goal. For example, there are 2 G1 Japan Cup races in November for both classic and senior years, but not all Umas will be able to do both of them due to their objective races landing on the same turn. Now, Oguri's Japan Cup race in the classic year gets cancelled because of her objective race being the Mayo Championship, whilst Maruzanski's objective races do not interrupt the classic or senior Japan Cup races. Now, optional races are the races you can schedule between objective races, so all the G1, G2, and G3s and other races available for each year and which are the exact same pool for all Umas. Number 2 is one that you won't know about because it's simply not revealed or obvious in the game, and that's the hidden random multiplier that gets added to calculate your fans after each race. For example, my Oguri here has a support card deck with a fan bonus total of 84% from the card effects and is entering the Mayo Championship race that has a base of 11,000 fans for first place. Now, my victory should grant me a total of 20,240 because 11,000 times 1.84, which is 84%, is 20,240. But instead, it's giving me 22,620. But how and why? Well, the game doesn't reveal or explain this, but there is a hidden random multiplier that seems to widen at each passing year from junior to senior that is calculated before the fan count bonus percentages. So the correct formula would be race-based fan reward, in this case 11,000, times a random multiplier, and for this one it would be approximately 1.12 times the support card fan bonus, which in this case is 1.84, which gives us 22,668 fans. Based on the data that I have gathered from my careers and how I've tested this, I believe that this multiplier is affected on your progression from junior to senior year, but we're still unable to know exactly how it operates because this is all hidden within the game's code. Number 3 is one you might be aware of, and that's the aptitude rank bonuses and penalties. Now, the aptitude we're most interested in for fan farming is distance, and that's simply because we need to ensure our Uma has at least 3 distances at A rank, which I will explain how and why later. So these letters mean different things depending on what row they're in. An A is a baseline to all aptitude ranks being track, distance, and style and gives no benefit or penalty. But if you're below A, you will be penalized. And if your Uma's aptitude is at an S, you will receive a small bonus. Track is power, distance is speed, and style is wit. And for number 4, which is one of the most important ones, and that's consecutive racing risks. After doing 2 consecutive races, on the 3rd one, Tazna will warn you that doing another race comes at a risk but doesn't specify what risks exactly. Well, here's what they are. If you have energy in your energy bar, the 3rd race will have a 60% chance to lower your Uma's mood, and that's regardless whether you take first place. The other risk is that your Uma could get a condition called skin outbreak that, if ignored, which further decreases her mood, so it forces you to take a turn at the infirmary. Now, the percentage chances of these happening are increased depending on how many races you have done consecutively, but also if the Uma's energy bar has no energy. So if your Uma's energy bar is empty, it significantly increases the risks. And remember, each time you are doing an optional race, you will have an after race event that will consume energy, with the most common one being the top option option fixed at minus 15 energy, and the bottom option with the minus 5 to minus 20 energy to gamble on instead. Now, it is important to consider this, although you will sometimes be forced in the senior year into consecutive racing automatically. So now that you've successfully learned all the fundamentals, I'm going to teach you which are the 4 best Umas for fan farming, why they are the best, and what to look out for in other Umas. And remember, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. First, we have Maruzensky's Summer as a front runner who will be available on the 14th of October. She is one of the most optimal choices because she has a good base ranks in all 4 distances, but also corner recovery and a gold recovery skill at potential level 3. And since 1 gold recovery skill is needed for fan farming, she ticks that box right off the bat. She also has a 15% growth bonus in speed that will make things slightly easier, but there is something that you need to understand about Maruzensky's Summer and also the other Umas you're setting up for fan farming, and that is simply bringing her medium and long distance to an A over improving her short distance, as the G1s that give the most fans are medium to long races. So staging her career with the right legacies that have the pink sparks in medium and long will make it easier for her to bring both of them to an A or beyond for a neutral or a speed bonus, as we touched on earlier, as we don't want to receive any penalties that could cause her to lose fans. And you might be thinking right now that, oh wait, this whole legacy business is going to be way too hard, I don't have any. But don't worry, we have a solution for that later that we'll go over together. Next, we have Symbolite Rudolph as a pace chaser. She has an A in both medium to long races and a C in mild that can be brought to A through legacies as well. She also has a secret event that boosts a random stat, increases her mood, and also recovers 30 energy by simply winning 8 G1 races, which is a bonus too. She also benefits from being able to access both Japan Cups in Classic and Senior Year, as they are not interrupted by her objective career races. Now, we will get into this more later, but using the support card deck that includes 2 stamina support cards with a good fan bonus is beneficial for her, as she has a bonus growth stat of 20% in stamina, making the target stamina for medium and long races much easier to reach than others. Next, we have Oguri as a pace chaser, who has a natural A in both mile and medium races, but also a B and long that can be brought to an A or beyond through pink sparks from the legacies. She also has a natural growth bonus of 20% in speed and 10% in power, making her career one of the easiest and least punishing on falling behind on essential stats. As part of her kit, Oguri also has Hydrate that leads to Gourmand, which is a gold recovery skill at potential level 3, which is worth noting is important to rush early so you're able to complete the first G1 medium race, being the hopeful stakes, with ease. One of the downsides to Oguri is that she only has access to the Japan Cup once, as her scheduled mile championship race prevents her from doing it in the classic year, which is a shame as it does give 30,000 fans as a base for the first place. Now, for our last option, which is a free-to-play friendly option, we have Grass Wonder as a late surger, and this is actually for almost the same reasons as Oguri. She has an A in mile and long, with a B in medium that can easily be brought to A or beyond through a legacy. She also has a growth bonus of 20% in speed and 10% in power, exactly like Oguri as well. But above all, she is the most accessible option, with her being a 2-star Uma that is easily obtainable through the Uma Scout, being the gacha. Some other honorable free-to-play mentions would be Goldship, Diamond Scarlet, and Mayano Top Gun. Okay, so now that we know the Umas, we can get into the strategy on how to improve their fan output. And there is only one way to do that, and that's when you are staging their career. So support cards who can provide a fan count bonus as part of their effects to increase your fan output on each race is what you want to go for. There are many support cards that don't provide this effect, but for those who do, the fan bonus amount depends on their uncapped level and goes anywhere from 5 to 10%, 10 to 15%, and 15 to 20%. I've also made a custom sheet including all current and some upcoming support cards that provide the highest fan bonus for each stat, which is 20%. This is just to make your life a little bit easier so you don't have to go on Game Torah or do some research, so you can just refer to it quickly and try to include at least one within your deck. So feel free to screenshot it or go ahead and join our Discord, as it will be available in a few weeks in the data sheet channel. So now that we know which Uma and support cards are best, what should we realistically aim for, and how do we do that with an average account? Well, that's quite easy. When fan farming, you should always try to do all G1 races and ensure you do not miss any of them, regardless if you're not getting first place. G2 races are the next focus and will only be something that you start including in your career run as long as your stamina isn't behind and you have 1 gold recovery skill. And that's because the cost of losing either a Japan Cup or Arimakainen race means losing a base of 30,000 fans, excluding your support card fan bonus, which is equivalent to at least 5 G2 races. So that's why it's not worth falling behind for the G2s. But how do you know that you are falling behind? Well, there are some pointers within the career that I will get into now. So, I decided to go with Augury, but with every fan farming Uma, there are 3 things you must plan carefully: blue sparks, pink sparks, and support card spread. Before you choose your legacies, you must decide whether you're going to do a 4 speed to stamina deck or 4 speed to power deck. You should always run 4 speed, but the choice between 2 stamina or 2 power will be based on 2 things: card availability and card uncapped level for maxed fan bonus output. Now, what can also help you make this choice between either 2 stamina support cards or 2 power support cards is if your Uma does not have a gold recovery skill within her kit. In that case, you'd want to go for stamina and a card like Super Creek that has a flexible gold recovery skill like Swinging Maestro. Now, since my Augury has Gourmand in her kit, I'm going for 4 speed and 2 power. Now, I know I need at least 1 legacy that has a 9-star blue spark in stamina, but also a long distance pink spark. So now that I know what I need from the legacies, I can go shopping for this on Umamusume DB and borrow one through the guest legacy feature. Now, preferably, I also would like to have my own legacy to give me anything from 21 to 63 stamina from the blue sparks. But fortunately, I do have one that's a 9-star as well, as I'm a day 1 player. Now, for the support cards, I've purposely chosen as many SR cards opposed to SSR cards for the sake of this demo. And this is just to show you that an average deck that can't even provide the hints for the Uma style and is focused on the fan count bonus instead can easily wipe a career simply by staging it correctly with the correct balance of support card types being 4-2 and legacies depending if the Uma has a gold recovery skill as part of her kit. Now, in this moment, if you are suddenly grasped with thinking that you cannot get your SR support cards to max limit break, or that it's simply just impossible for you, well, that's likely because you've been pulling on the Uma banners instead of the support card banners. I've noticed a lot of free-to-play players do not understand this, but when you are a free-to-play player, you're not supposed to be pulling on the Uma banners each month. You can't afford to. Side Games just doesn't provide enough currency for free-to-play players to get away with that. And if you have been playing for at least 4 weeks every single day and you focus on 1 support card banner, you will have SR cards at max limit break. We're not talking about SSR cards here. We're talking about SR cards, and that's not hard to do. Now, back to our demo. It's more challenging to farm with 2 power cards instead of 2 stamina cards. And that's simply because you're more vulnerable to falling behind on stamina due to poor early bond training RNG to reach rainbow training. As after the initial inheritance from the legacies after starting the career, the next inspirations will be at the classic and senior years. And in my case, that's when I can expect my stamina to catch up where I need it to be. But the real challenge with this will always be the grind from the pre-debut to the early classic year of making sure your support cards reach bond 80 before summer camp happens. Summer camp will happen twice for each career and goes from early July to September for 4 turns. And this might be challenging at first, as you'll see how some G1s line up consecutively as you progress through a career, so it's best you browse through the race schedule after each objective race just to plan your route based on the G1s. And that's especially when you start including the G2s later on in the senior year. And remember, your Uma needs to have the right amount of stamina not only for mile races but for medium and long races as well. This translates to 400 to 500 stamina with 1 gold recovery skill, which should be what you aim for by the time you reach the first Ivory Makainen. That's in December in the classic year. It's a long distance race that grants 30,000 fans as a base, so you just can't afford to miss it. Now, this might surprise you or it might not, but I had never done a fan farming run with Augury Cap before. This was my very first one using these support cards and not my optimal ones either. And I still won 30 races out of 30, which granted me over 800,000 fans simply by focusing on doing all the G1 races and just a few G2s in the senior year where I comfortably hit my target stat spread, which allowed me to comfortably complete all the G1 races and also some extra G2s in the senior year. So remember, regardless of which Uma you're farming with, you want to aim for 500 stamina and 1 gold recovery skill at minimum to ensure you can compete efficiently against the NPC Umas in medium to long distance races. And if you've staged your legacies and support cards and chosen correctly between the 2 deck types and legacies we went over, whilst being mindful of including your cards that give the highest fan count bonus, this will literally become second nature for you and you will do it without even thinking. But ultimately, your account's output, being your legacies and support cards, will determine how far you can go reliably for fan farming without failing the career or losing G1 races. This means that you might only be able to complete all G1 races and simply won't have time to include any G2 races, and that's fine. You're still doing it, and that's the beauty of it. If I was to run my best support cards, I would easily reach 1 million fans, and this is because I'll be so ahead on stats, and people who don't have really good support cards might fall behind on stats due to their support cards early on. Just remember that coming first in the races is desirable, but not a deal breaker, as you can't control career RNG. That's it, and I want to say, well done. You made it to the end of the video and you took in so much information. Just remember that Uma Musume is isn't an easy gacha to get into, but you've once again proven your commitment and dedication to becoming a better trainer for your horse skills by simply watching this video, and that alone is commendable. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. This was Static. Remember to have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.